It's time to talk about the do-while loop. Do-while loop is just another way in which we can perform our looping operations in C#. So another good question would be, what is the difference between while and do-while? Well, they're pretty similar in a sense that they're very flexible and they allow us to have a condition based on which we can perform the looping operation a certain amount of times. And it could be 5, 100 or million times. We still don't have to know the upper bound. We can just give a condition and based on that, perform our looping operation. So in that sense, they're very similar. However, with a while loop, we always check our condition first before executing the block of code. In do while, we're guaranteed our first execution of the loop. In other words, in do while, we would execute this block before checking the condition. So this is great for times when you need the first execution to happen before your condition is checked. For this specific case, when we're asking a user for a certain input and then checking the condition, do while actually works out a lot better. And I'll show you why in a minute. Let's go ahead and rewrite this in a do while form. I will comment this out, and then I will go ahead and say do, and then while. And that's it. So we can actually reuse our condition and can use the body. So the block that we want to execute. We'll uncomment it by using Control-KU and space it out just for better readability. I will go ahead and declare a variable called input and initialize it with an empty string using string empty. So this will do the same thing as the above code. However, let's look at the above code. What is the thing that's standing out to you right off the bat? Well, it would be that we're writing our code twice. We're repeating ourselves. We're saying, ask the user for an input, print it out. Ask the user for an input, print it out. Whereas in our do while, we only do it once. Now, do not repeat yourself is a principle. It is a best practice in software development, which I will be going over in our later sections. But just know that it is something that we want to follow. And in this case, we can't really do it because the structure doesn't allow us. However, with do while, we can do it pretty easily because our first execution is guaranteed. So in cases like these, do while is pretty useful. However, when we don't really care about the first execution to be guaranteed, we can use while, or we can use for loop as we have went over it. And that would depend whether you really care about the upper bound or you want it to be more flexible. But the bottom line would be that you want to first see if you really care about the first execution to be guaranteed. Let's go ahead and see how this works. I will breakpoint it here and at the end, and I will run the program. Let's go ahead and step through it. And I will ask the user for an input. Say hi. It will print it out and then check the condition. The condition will be met so that once again we'll ask the user for an input. In this case, I will say nothing. So it will be an empty string. Great. So it will print out an empty string, the condition won't be met, and it will exit out the loop. But let's see what happens if right off the bat we provide it with an empty string. What would happen? Let's go ahead and step through it. So we'll ask the user for an input. We'll provide it with an input, but the input will be empty. So we'll print the input and then check the condition. The condition won't be met, so we'll exit out the loop. So this basically performed the same way as the code above. However, in this case, we're not repeating ourselves because the structure matches our needs. And that's really what you want to do when you're developing software. You want to use the tools that match your current requirements so that you can build a clean and sustainable software.